Let's start with the digestive system. So, what is the overall purpose of the digestive system? You may already know the answer, but to summarize it in 2 words is to absorb nutrients. So that's the main thing. Take your food and convert it into something that your cells can use. So what you will have to do is break down that initial food, and then you have to kind of convert it into smaller and smaller bits until your cells can finally absorb that food now that's in its molecular form. Now, this is very interesting, and actually when I started teaching this, I remember seeing articles about this a long time ago, and now it starts, more YouTubers are talking about this now, but breatharianism. Now, I'm not going to test you on what that is, but there's this certain subsect of people who think, okay, they can get all the energy they need to live just from light and air, so they're basically plants, right? So yeah, then there's breatharian couple. They live a food-free lifestyle. Influencers, gotta love them, right? And they haven't felt hungry, and it's like, but it's funny because like later on they said like, oh yeah, this is where it's kind of like getting dangerous though. Like she was going to not now they're gonna have a pregnancy and not have eat anything during that entire time, and it's like, okay, now you're starting to affect other people. You can do with your body what you want, but now if you're expecting and you want to carry that child to term, you gotta eat. You gotta eat for two, right? Okay, and this person, right, but what do they find out with all these people who are breatharians? Eventually they catch them. If they follow them enough, they eventually see like, oh, like here's another breatharian in Australia, and she says like, oh, we eat all the time, just differently. Sure, yeah, you're built different. So it's kind of funny, like she went to take a flight, and then the British Airways check clerk asked her to confirm that she'd ordered an in-flight vegetarian meal. So she says she doesn't eat anything, but then at the counter they expose her. So like, we got a meal reserved for you, and then she's like, no, no, no. Oh yes, okay, I did, but I won't be eating it. Yeah, she likes to watch, right? Anyway, so why do we need nutrients? Well, let's talk about we need it to get energy. Duh, right. So we need to absorb nutrients to get energy. But we also need it to repair ourselves. Again, we're made out of cells, and cells are made out of different molecules, but we also need to take these molecules and use them to rebuild, or say you're into bodybuilding and you want to build up more muscle, you need all these nutrients to have the building blocks so you can make even more muscle. So they're not just about like converting to energy, but also converting it into you, the physical matter that is you. And you might have seen this if you taken AP Biology or Intro to Biology, but this equation. So what are the components of this equation? We have glucose, and the important part about this is that you have a source of carbon. And we'll get more into that when we talk about metabolism, but yes, this part right here is glucose. And then you combine it with oxygen, and this is why we need to breathe. So at least they got the air part right, those breatharians. And then what do you produce? You combine the carbon from glucose and the hydrogen and oxygen with oxygen to get carbon dioxide and water, and then ATP and heat. So these are forms of energies. ATP helps to store energy, and heat, yes, it is a form of energy. So yeah, sorry, breatharian Barbie. Well, I mean, if you don't have glucose, if you don't have carbon, what do you have? You just have oxygen. So yeah, you won't be producing carbon dioxide, but where are you going to get that ATP and heat? How do you convert that to ATP and energy? Just from splitting oxygen? I don't know, but yeah, this is like, where does this all come from? Yeah, get away from here. We're talking about what real people and how real people eat. Okay, so now let's talk about digestion. So the process of converting your food into absorbable nutrients. So again, you can't just take a burger and just put it on your cells and expect it to eat it. Like, imagine if you could eat just by just taking your food, putting it on your skin, and then eventually absorbs into your skin. Sorry, you actually have to process it inside yourself. So you need to break down your food into some form that's usable by your cells and tissues of your body. So you can either do it by mechanically, by breaking down the food physically and breaking it apart into smaller pieces, or you can do it chemically by using different chemicals and enzymes to digest and dissolve the food particles into smaller molecules. Now, here's Mr. Peanut, and actually this was a while ago, but yeah, when I used to live across from Peppa's Barbecue, then I would always ask for a scoop of rice on the side, and they say, "Oh, how come?" And then, or "Why is that?" And then I say, "Oh, it's for my bird." Because yeah, as you can see, he likes his rice. He likes actually any sort of grain. But yeah, he's eating there because like I didn't want him to have like hot chili sauce on his rice or barbecue juices on the rice. But yeah, so he loves eating things, and he always like. And one of his other favorite foods besides rice are carrots. But he's a little picky. He doesn't eat carrots as is. What he has, he doesn't want a whole carrot or little slices. He wants it julienne. He prefers it when it's small and thin like that. So one time my mom was or I should say birdie sitting him, and then he was like, and I asked my mom, "Oh, and she asked, "Oh, what's one of his favorite foods?" And I said, "Oh, he loves carrots." So what did mom do? She took a big carrot and she was like a whole carrot. I was like, "Here, Mr. Peanut, here, your favorite." And after that, he stopped liking carrots. So poor thing. But yeah, basically, this Mr. Peanut wanted mechanical digestion. He wanted it digested and he wanted it chopped up into smaller pieces. So it's something that he can actually absorb and ingest. So he could eat a whole carrot, but that's not what he's used to. And just like another example, so let's scale it up. So here's a bunch of college students, and what if I just gave you a cow and says like, here's some nutrition, go have at it. Can you just eat a cow whole like a boa constrictor? Probably not, right? So what do you have to do is that you have to convert it into a ingestible form. So how do you make a burger? You take the meat from a cow, you grind it up, and you add spices and whatever you want to that burger, and then you cook it, right? Or same here. Can you take that, say you do have a burger, can you just have a petri dish full of cells here and throw the burger on and expect the cells to live and absorb that burger just as is? No, again, you have to convert it to some sort of usable form. So this is where my mechanical digestion comes in. So what do is you break food into smaller particles. And then you also want to increase, and by breaking into smaller particles, what do? Well, when you have a big chunk of food, then all the chemicals and enzymes that are in your digestive system, they're only exposed to the outer layer. But if you break into smaller and smaller particles, you increase the overall surface area by having smaller surface to volume ratios. Now, here's an example of the burger. So again, like pretend all of this are chemicals and enzymes you find in your digestive tract. Like, say this is stomach acid, and what's that going to do is going to help to chemically dissolve and break down the outer parts of this burger. So it'll take a while. So like you have to dissolve the outer layers, exposing a new layer, and then you also chemically digest this layer. And as you start to digest the outer layers, more falls apart. And then you eventually get to the inner portions of that food particle that you swallowed and ingested. So it takes a while to actually get to that center if, say, you swallowed your food whole. Now, what happens if you have it, one, on the left here, we have a burger that's intact, and two, we have a burger that's chopped up into pieces. Now, again, to follow our rules in the previous example, only the outer layers are going to get dissolved first. So let's expose that outer layer, and now let's dissolve that outer layer. What do we notice? We notice that the example on the right lost more of that volume, and there's like very little left compared to the example on the left. Let's dissolve the outer layer again. Oh, what did we notice? Now we notice that the example on the right, which was chopped up into smaller pieces, dissolved faster than the one on the left, because again, it's exposing more surface area when you chop something up. Therefore, it improves the efficiency of chemical digestion by exposing more of your food to the enzymes and chemicals in your body. Alright, so this is another thing I want to use. It's not just like a separation, like there's mechanical digestion and there's chemical digestion. They work together, they play on each other. So mechanical digestion breaks food apart and makes chemical digestion more efficient by increasing the amount of surface area. So this is mechanical digestion. Here is a watermelon. Can you just swallow a watermelon whole? No, right? So what you have to do is maybe get some watermelon slices, and when you chew it up in your mouth and cut and grind it, then you'll have a little paste that you swallow. And when you swallow it and it ends up in your stomach and then your intestines, what happens is that chemical digestion starts to take over. So say you have this like slurry of digested chewed up watermelon and then this watermelon mash. What happens is that watermelons are full of starches, and these starches are going to get digested by enzymes such as carbohydrases, and they're going to break these big starches into smaller sugar molecules or carbohydrate monosaccharides and carbohydrates. And then these carbohydrates, these small molecular ones, are going to be transported into cells where they'll eventually end up in your bloodstream, then to your liver, and then it can be distributed throughout your entire body. Okay, so what did we just cover in this section? So we talked about what mechanical and chemical digestion are, and you'll learn later on where they occur in the digestive system as we go through the different organs in the digestive system. But we did define those mechanical and chemical digestion. We also talked about how they work together and how they are able to take the food you ingest and then eventually convert it into a form that's usable by the tissues and cells of your body.